Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. I am your host, Karl Bryan. I'm here with my boy, Road Dog. What's happening over that way, bud? I'm coming from Mexico, by the way, so everybody can get a little bit jealous.
Well, mission accomplished, my friend. Mission accomplished. I am jealous because I am not sitting on a beach.
Well, that's okay. That's okay, man. We're gonna rock it. But I tell you, when you get stuck into this, buddy, tell me what you got for me, man, and let's punch this thing out.
Okay. All right. I got a couple real good ones here. First one, again, I know that we talk a lot of mindset, sort of bigger thinking sort of stuff, but you know, there's a great saying, right? We're all drowning in information, but just starving for knowledge. So that really got me thinking the other day, and I really wanted to get your thoughts and your opinion on this, because there's definitely no shortage of programs, courses, content, information online. Like there's no shortage, right? So then the question is, with so much information readily available to all of us, why do people still fail? Like, we're not just talking some people. Like, we're talking like 90% of people still fail, even with all that info. Like, what's your take on all that?
Yeah, Beatty, I would say, first of all, bloody excellent question. Ask a good question. I think you get a good answer. And again, this would be a difficult one to answer in one shot, but my instincts are to say basically this, guy. It's the name of the books that, you know, like they're seductive but delusional a lot of the time. Like, you know, follow your gut, right? I've got a saying that gut, that stands for gave up thinking, right? It's not, don't go with your gut. I know that you did it one time and it worked, and, you know, maybe that's how you met your husband or your wife, what have you. In business, your gut is not your friend as a rule, right? That's what, you know, causes you to lend money to that friend. And of course you lose the friend and the money. That one you can take to the bank, right? So go with your gut. No, go with what you measure, right? And go with what go with what logic says significantly over your gut. But what happens is people read the title of the book and they think that that's what it's about, right? Another beauty is 4-hour work week, right? So just 4-hour work week, again, seductive but delusional. And what people don't do, they read the cover. If you actually read the book, it's an unbelievable business book. And it's, in a nutshell, it's about getting 40 hours of work done in 4 hours, not working for 4 hours and then thinking you're actually going to impact anybody or anything. You're not going to do it in 4 hours, right? And then you'll give me an example of one person in a million that did. But once again, think of what I said a minute ago about gut. Like, I'm going with the percentages. I'm going with what I could measure. I'm going with what logic tells me, not what my instincts say, but to measure this stuff. So your gut will get you. But anyway, so 4-hour work week, same thing. The Secret, right? The Secret, again, you watch the movie, you read the book, it's missing one word, and it's action, right? And it's just, that's the X factor. End of story, conversation over, mic drop, right? So, you know, thinking positively, of course, you're better to think positively than negatively. But I'll tell you what, there's things, stoicism, like if you'd like to follow Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, or some of the greatest athletes or coaches in the world, they would actually tell you the opposite. Well, what you really do is you think, not so much think negatively, but prepare for the negative situation so that you don't get thrown for a loop. I would say that that's a better tact. That's a better game plan than The Secret and just thinking that you're going to think positively and all these amazing things are going to fall on your lap. It's, once again, the words that I would use is delusional. It's seductive but delusional. So I'd say that the names of the damn books are screwing us up left, right, and center. It's like, you know, do what you love and make loads of money, right? That's like saying eat what you want and lose loads of weight, right? Like, that's not going to happen, right? So So that the names of the books, the names of the programs and whatnot, they're designed to lure you in, but you've got to take the time to read the 300 pages, not read the book or get the seductive, the seductive message without actually getting the roadmap that you need to follow, which is going to follow a whole lot of work. So I'd say that as much as anything, I think that, I think it's that. And then actually I would just finish that by saying it's bloody hard work, right? So a professional athlete is like, in fact, we just had a presentation not long ago. One of our clients was the captain of the Harlem Globetrotters for 10 years, Kevin Daly, absolute superstar. To become a professional athlete, you're less than 1% of the people who play basketball end up getting paid to do it. Well, I want you to think of, without being with that professional basketball player prior to them getting paid, think of the training, like 4 hours straight on a court. We all know the stories of Michael Jordan, right? The level that he took it to in his training, sweat pouring off his forehead, pouring off of his arms, finishing that training. After that, he didn't go drink a beer. He went to the gym to work out after it, right? Kobe Bryant was famous for playing, like a 3-hour game and then going to the gym afterwards, right? So it's just the level of commitment would frankly blow the mind of the average entrepreneur also. But then they read this, follow your gut, do what you love, 4-hour work week. They read all these programs, the title of all these programs and the seductive nature of them all, and they get thrown off course thinking that it's all going to, kind of be significantly easier than it is, or, it's going to come their way. So that's how to answer that. I think that's as much to do with it than anything else.
Awesome. All right. A couple more. I got a couple here that are quite specific, actually, dude. Like they very much in time to get your Mexico mind back on straight and thinking for an actual prospect. So here's an email I got. He's got a prospect, and again, I don't even know how this happens, but the guy's profitable, but he's got like a cash flow crisis. Okay, so I guess how does it even happen? But how do you fix something like that? Like, because again, obviously this is going to be a huge problem for this prospect, right? So how do you fix that?
Yes. Okay. So I guess the average business coach would get confused by that. They'd say, how in the world is my client profitable? And then they've got no cash. And if you think it confuses the business coach, imagine what it does to the business owner, right? And by the way, I don't know that it's significantly more common than you would ever dream. Okay. Because again, profits do not equal cash. Mic drop. End of story. So here's what you do. You've got a client that's profitable, but they don't have any cash. There's 5 areas. All of these live on an income statement, or what you might know as a P&L, profit and loss. So here it is in a nutshell. You've got 5 areas that you can go to increase cash. Number 1 is super obvious. You've got to increase revenues. Okay. That's obvious for everybody listening. The second thing, which is almost as obvious, but never gone to, reduce expenses. Okay. I find that reducing expenses, going through your client's credit card statements and having a look and ask 2 questions every time you see an expense. Does it help us get a client? And then the second question is, does it help us keep a client? If the answer is no, you pretty much just take a red pen and put a line through it and find a way to cut that cost out. End of story. Okay. So, those 2 expenses. And again, reducing expenses is up there with returning the library book in order of priority. And that is insanity, just flat out insanity. So number 3 is accounts receivable, which maybe should be number 1, by the way. Think about an accounts receivable problem. Okay. That means that let's presume you've run an ad. You've sent a salesperson in to close a client. You've done the work. You've delivered the work. You've fulfilled on all your commitments, and now you're not getting paid. And then what the average business owner does is, through the seductive names of the programs, they go and buy Facebook ads instead of going and getting their accounts receivable. And then why? Because it's not sexy. It's not a lot of fun. But again, it's insanity. So if I look at somebody's balance sheet and I see an accounts receivable problem, I can tell you that the rest of the business has a problem, right? Like if your accounts receivable is tight, the rest of your business is probably tight. If your accounts receivable is loose, you're probably going to find the same thing is around the company. So a leadership problem, which comes back to psychology. But bottom line, guys, accounts receivable, just go straight there and you will find your coaching fees. And the other thing is you'll go, okay, we've got to collect these accounts receivable. And then what the business owner will do is go, okay, let me call the department and I'm going to get these guys on it. No, remember, they don't have any cash. They got a profitable business with no cash. This is terrible, right? This is like in the personal development world, this would be like achievement without fulfillment, right? It's the ultimate failure. So no, the business owner should pick up the phone, call these people. And by the way, if they're not going to pay, you got to just write it off, dust yourself off and move on. Otherwise, again, you'll continue to look at these financials that appear to be, profitable. But in reality, if there's a ton of bad debt in there, you just got to take it on the chin, adjust your sales moving forward to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Because that is the, you can't allow accounts receivable problem. And the business owner needs to get in there, clean it up and move on. End of story. Right, so that's number 3. Right? Number 1 was revenues. Number 2 was expenses. Number 3 was accounts receivable. Number 4 is inventory. Okay? Super important. In fact, I did a talk just recently, and what I talked about was I bought a watch recently, and then after I bought it and I paid for it, they sent me an email and said, we're making your watch. I want you to think of that from an inventory. What happens at the end of the year once what most normal watch companies bring in the new lines, like the 2020 watches coming, right? Well, or again, 21, depending upon when you're listening to this. So when they, like at the end of the year, if they're selling all dead stock and then they have to sell it at a discount, most people aren't buying a certain amount of watches, right? Or that's one watch is what most people buy. Well, then you lose the opportunity to sell a profitable one. Think about this client. They advertised, they got me to plug in my credit card, and then now they're making my watch. And because they do it in such a cool way, I'm willing to wait 60, 90 days to get my watch. And by the way, they've sent me a number of emails in the process to tell me how exciting it is and which part they're actually telling me now they're putting on the back of it, right? That sort of stuff. The bottom line, inventory is not a problem for that company, okay? If you watch the show The Profit, you'll see all the time he goes into businesses and he sees an inventory problem and he immediately cleans it up. So basically, inventory is a way to basically smoke a whole lot of money, which disrupts your profitability because you have to pay for this stuff at some stage, right? But the problem is you're not getting paid, creates a huge, your financials get turned upside down when you don't do this properly. So again, I'm looking at your financials. I see that you have an inventory problem. You got to go and just work it out. And in one case, you got to just sell that stuff for 10 cents on the dollar to get a little bit of cash in. Most importantly, get the inventory out, start again and start running a tight business that makes sense, right? So either significantly less inventory, or you got to get better at selling what you've got, or you got to stop, bringing in, like say you've got 5 different products, if you're bringing the same amount of product in on all 5, but one outsells the other 2 to 1, well, this takes inventory control, and a lot of business owners don't have that. Okay, so remember, you got a profitable business that doesn't have any cash, go straight to inventory. The last one is number 5, and is normally, this one surprises people, okay? Accounts payable. Most business owners take great pride in saying, I don't like to owe money, I just pay up front. And they beat their chest like as though this is something to be super proud of. I guess maybe it is, right? They don't owe money, and I think that's absolutely credible. But the timing of paying it sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, let me give you an example. Apple, we all know Apple, right? The most cash flush business on the planet of all time, right? Leaves Microsoft and these others for absolute dead in terms of its cash flow, its ability to run cash through the bank account. If you bought something from Apple bought something from you tomorrow, you wouldn't get paid for 91 days. Question is why? Well, because they don't have to pay you for 91 days. And if you're going to provide them a significant discount to pay up front, no doubt that they would look at that. But at the end of the day, they don't pay their accounts payable for 90 days. And in a nutshell, without going too deep here, it's just the cash is better in their bank account than somebody else's. End of story. But they're going to pay, right? It's not that they're bad payers. They just don't pay for 90 days. So unless you are being given an incentive to pay upfront for your products and services, just delay paying them to the last possible, but never acquire a penalty. Now that goes into another conversation, which is silly. You might as well light the money on fire, okay? And then if you're like, oh my God, demand, like this is where negotiation comes in, and you sit down and you negotiate with your suppliers, which the average business owner has never negotiated with anybody. They find it uncomfortable, which again is crazy, okay? So like accounts receivable, same thing. Like when you agree to do business with someone, make very tight. There's no point doing business with somebody who's not going to pay you. So be very, very careful there. So when you make the arrangement, make sure you're super clear with exactly what the expectations are and exactly when you get paid, which most people are a little bit loosey-goosey with it, and then it allows for them to be taken advantage of. But the bottom line is, Road Dog, answer to that question, which again I think is a bloody good one, and one that I think people should be asking more often. Number one is increase revenues. Two is decrease expenses. Number three is have a look at accounts receivable and make sure that part of the business is tight. Number four is inventory, dead inventory. Maybe a restaurant is a better example than a watch company. Wastage is the second biggest expense in a restaurant. Okay, number one will be staff always, and then number two is going to be wastage. Okay, so it goes without saying that they're not managing their inventory properly when there's tons of wastage. Okay, so that's number four. And then number five, which normally surprises people, but accounts payable. That doesn't say that you don't pay people, and it's the exact opposite. It's just that you're intelligent about when you pay people and don't be in a rush. And if you are going to pay up front, you expect a discount, mic drop. And so very few people, they're not going to provide that unless you ask it, right? Why would they? So there you go. So that's how you do it. Those five areas. Beauty question. That's something I'd be spending some time on if I were a business coach for sure. Because that's a great client, right? In fact, go off on a little bit of a rabbit hole here. But if you were to ask me, what are the two things that I'm looking for out of my coaching clients, or what's an ideal trait of a business coach or a business coaching client? Number one is hunger. Okay, absolutely bloody critical. Hunger. I want someone who wants to wake up at 5 a.m. and hit tennis balls, even though she's the greatest of all time, like Serena Williams. And then number two, high revenues, low profit margin, which would be the business that you just described, profitable on their, profitable on the income statement, but has a cash flow problem. That is a great client because you just need to go in with a stick of a screwdriver and turn a few knobs, and you can make them profitable very, very quickly. And this is boring stuff, though, Road Dog. Right? This isn't I'm not going to name a book, go collect your accounts receivable and have it run off the shelves and have a bestseller. Unfortunately, it's not nearly seductive enough, but it's practical as hell and would make you about 20 times as much money on average than, buying the full-hour work week, reading the title, getting through 5 pages, assuming what the book's about, closing it, thinking, in your head on a subconscious level, having this ridiculous goal of only working 4 hours a week and making an impact on the world, which is not going to happen. So there you go, brother.
Well, you know what? You're right. It's not nearly as sexy as battling with Facebook over getting your ads approved. You're absolutely right, because that's sexy.
This
right?
is it.
Hey, that reminds me of a great quote. I think it's one of our guys. Isn't it Frank that says, "Revenue feeds your ego, profits feed your family."
Yep. Okay. This is it. But I agree. But I'm going one step further, which I think is critical, because profits, like go to 7-Eleven, go to the grocery store and try to buy them with profits. Right? Profit is a theory, cash is fact. Okay,
right.
So I agree, but it's one level higher, one level deeper, it's one step further. In fact, hopefully I can get this, but here's the step. If everybody wants to get a pen and paper, I'd encourage you to write this down. But you've got assets at the top, then put an arrow down to sales, then put an arrow down to profits, right? So assets, right? And then sales, pretty obvious. And then third down are profits. But you've got to go one step lower, and that's cash. turning profits into cash. So taking accounts receivable and collecting them would be an example of that step. And then once you've got cash, like again, this can be a little bit, somebody who's not, up with, reading financials and whatnot, which is not normally a lot of fun, but it could become fun if you decided to make it a little bit of a pastime. The same way you first looked at Monopoly and you didn't know what the heck to do and where to move the chips, and now it's like a lot of fun for the whole family. Financials, a whole lot similar. But so you got cash, you can spend it three ways. One, you can pay off assets off of your balance sheet. Okay, do you understand that? I call it stuff instead of assets, but you pay off your stuff. You can then pay off your suppliers, right? The existing, accounts payable, right? The people that you owe money to. Or the third way you spend it is you disperse it amongst the business owners, right? So that as in you pull money out, you pay yourself a dividend, you pay yourself a wage, you pull it out. That's what you're doing with the cash. Ultimately, you're not getting paid in profits, you're getting paid in cash. And with no cash, you don't get paid. And I suppose there could be a fourth one there, but this means that it just stays in retained earnings, which means the company's just got some money in the bank account. Everybody should high five because that's a smart thing to do. But ultimately, there's only three ways to spend money in a business. You basically buy assets, you pay off payables, or you pay the owners of the company. Three things you can do with cash. So I like that quote, but I want to go one step deeper, and that's cash.
Love it.
People don't talk about this. It's not seductive, kind of boring, but it's why people, the question you asked me at the beginning is, why are so many people failing? This is why, right? It's kind of boring talking about turning accounts receivable into cash, right? That's very less attractive and exciting than Facebook ads, but about a million times more important. Make sense?
Totally agree. All right, switching gears. I was messaging with one of our new coaches. Just when was this? Late last week, and guys knocking it out of the park, which I love. I love that. So in one of it, I'm reading it off of my messenger because I was on messenger with this guy. He's like, also something I'm realizing in an oh crap moment. What does an actual coaching session typically look like? I'm planning on having 1 to 3 clients by Friday. Good problem to have.
Okay. Yeah, this is it. So, okay, the question is it the sale? What are you asking me? Is it the sales presentation or is it the first coaching call? Sorry.
First coaching, like you've signed the client, they're ready to work with you, and you're like, okay, I did a great job. I convinced them that there was a need, and I'm the person to solve that problem. What do I do?
Okay, boom. So you're getting paid. This is the first call. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, here it is. There's strategy and tactics, right? So there's, once again, seductive, delusional kind of talk. Everybody knows that strategy eats tactics for breakfast, right? Which would be correct. The war is won in the tents, not on the front lines, right? Although that's where it is fought out on the front lines. You got to get into the tents. However, if you were my coaching client, Road Dog, what I've got to do, we've only known each other for, in some cases, it might be days and might be weeks, it might be months. But what I've got to do is I have an obligation to what do I want to elevate your level of trust in me, the program, and the process that we're undertaking together. Okay, so strategy in a nutshell, and once again, this is gray. This is not black and white. But strategy in a nutshell is a step backwards to take 2 forwards, right? Well, that's not the way to start your coaching relationship. The way to start your coaching relationship is to put a run on the board, okay? So where I go early on, and I'm just going to throw out like 90 days. It might be early like 30 because we put early runs on the board and you're hungry and you're friggin' that animal that's just I say and you do, like I say jump and you say how high and then you actually do it. So like we go tactical. So I'm going to say for 90 days, but it could well and truly, you could build up that trust in 30. And when I say trust, I just want you to think runs on the board. Okay. So an example of what I would do with you is that I would go through your credit card statements early on. Okay, hang on. I'm going to press pause for a minute. Through the sales process, I was asking you questions. Like, let's say I was going to find you $100,000 in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising, right? Well, if I'd worked out that you had an accounts receivable problem, this is we're going straight there. And my personality, that I will get in a plane, I will get in the car, and I will come sit with you to get these, because if I get the snowball rolling, it'll continue to roll. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But if we never get it rolling, it never happens, right? So if I motivate you, hey man, go solve your accounts receivable problem. Awesome, man. I'll speak to you next week. High five. Like, there's a good chance that doesn't get done, right? You got to go above and beyond. So early on in the relationship, I'm trying to build up that trust. So I would go through your credit card statements with a fine tooth and comb, and every expense, I'm asking two questions. Like I said earlier, does it get a new client? Does it keep an existing one? If it doesn't do one of those two things, I'm going to try put a line through it. And you're going to have to convince me that I shouldn't, right? Anything that we've got, like rent as an example, I want you to go and negotiate with the landlord. You've been there for 5 years. Let's go negotiate. Like, you're on a month-to-month deal. Let's go sign a 3-year lease. Like, you're not going anywhere. Don't want to go anywhere. Let's go sign a 3-year lease and say, maybe we can save you $500 a month, but just $6,000 a year. And that $6,000 a year will go straight into your bank account, cash. Like, just open up your wallet and let it fall in, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I would be doing early. Importantly, through my sales process would dictate what those things are. But, you're going to find it hard to find a client where going through their credit card statements over the last 90 days is not an effective use of time, right? Even for them to see the level that you want to see them doing it in the future, even if they do, run a tight operation, to go through that process and then say, does this get a client or does it keep a client? Does this get a client or does this keep a client? Does this get a client or does this keep a client? You know what I mean? Like, you'll be training him or her on how to think in the future. So that's what I do. So early on, we're solving that problem. It's like, okay, let's rock and roll. I mean, again, a little bit, like, as an example, I've been coaching clients in the past, and this isn't necessarily what I'm recommending. It's definitely it's not that I'm not recommending it. But let's say, Road Dog, you had a staff member and they were a bit of a rogue staff member. Like, there were some challenges and you've been wanting to address them, but just haven't had the time, right? You and I are on the phone. Let's say we have a 1-hour call. I say, Road Dog, we're hanging up the phone right now. You are calling him or her right now. You've only got 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, watch your phone. At 10 minutes, that conversation is over. Don't beat around the bush. Don't fart around. I just want you to speak to them and say, look, moving forward, you need to get your numbers into me, right? Like, this is a salesperson, let's assume, and they're not getting their call sheets in. Like, how many calls do they make? How many maybes? How many follows up? And how many sales? And often this will be one of your better salespeople, and they say, well, no, see, I make all the sales, so I don't have to play by the same rules as everybody else, right? If that's frustrating the heck out of you and setting a bad example, I will get you to phone them literally during the call, sort it out, and then get back on it. And sometimes they're not available, whatever. But even if the person wasn't available, they made the call, they did what they needed to do, they get back on, they feel progress equals happiness, right? So they feel like there was a little bit of progress there, like they had the guts to make the phone call, deal with it. They didn't answer, but I'm willing, and as soon as I'm done, I will call, I will get this done today. Or ideally, and often, they get them on the phone, they spend 10 minutes, they phone me, and they're like, wow, I just took a brick and pulled it straight off of their shoulders. So, answer to your question is that kind of what I'm trying to outline is some tactical steps that I would take. I guess there's no strategy in what I'm talking about, right? But there's tactical success, and that's going to put the runs on the board so that when it's time to take a step backward, to take 2 or 3 forwards with strategy, there'll be a higher level of buy-in. And because we've put some runs on the board, like, by the way, Road Dog, if we go through their credit card statements, there's a ridiculously good chance in that, let's say it takes 2 hours, in those 2 hours that you literally cover your coaching fees for the entire 12 months. Like, literally, I'd be surprised if that's not the result, right? Or you go straight to accounts receivable and they have an accounts receivable problem, you will cover your coaching fees in that moment for the entire year. Like, mic drop. It's like, that's it. But all of this stuff is tactical. So that's what I'd say. So on that call, don't feel like, just get granular, right? Just get, really, just tactical is the right word for it. highly strategic is where you need to go, because tactics without strategy is a treadmill and not where you want to go. But that's what I would do with them. And I just want to knock something over. But if there's something else, like maybe it's a challenge with his wife or her husband or the kids, right? Like there's something pressing, go straight to it. Have a little bit of success. That's what I do, man. Super tactical, brother. Super tactical.
Carl, hold on a sec though, but here's the thing, okay? Because I know a lot of coaches, especially say you're a newer coach, right? They're going to feel uncomfortable. It's like we just started working together, and here, like you walk in, of course, you've got the, as you like to say, charisma. I like to say swagger. To go in and be like, okay, hand me over your credit card statements. You can understand how that might make some people extremely uncomfortable on both sides of that question, right?
100% and high five, by the way. That's a very good yes. But you answered it like there's a level of swagger, a level of moxie, an expectation that I just have. And this is one, it's like a steroid I injected in your bum. Like I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? This is confidence. And if they're not, I get it. That's cool. But it's, for the most part, believe me, they've hired you. That should work pretty comfortably, a solid 60% all day long. With I tell you, if you're my client, like it's working, I'm comfortable to say, like, unless you can't find them, like it's working, like this works. You know what I mean? So I guess, but there is a level of moxie, which guess how you get moxie? I mean, I didn't have moxie 2 decades ago, right? I was like trying to work this out just like everybody else, but now it just comes from a place of authority and a place of assuredness. And that's just my expectation. Now, okay, so if we're not happy there, then we're going accounts receivable. And if we're not happy there, we're going to the rogue staff member. If we're not happy there, or no need there, but what's important is that they hired you for a reason. What is that reason? What is their short-term pain? Go straight there. And by the way, they may or may not know where their short-term pain is, because often they don't realize it's accounts receivable. And this is kind of the magic of being a well-educated and well-trained coach, is that you can help them work out where their real pain point problem is, right? They think it's their Facebook ads aren't working properly, right? And then we like, the 60 grand on your accounts receivable, maybe this might be worth going and having a look at. So yeah, like I said, that comes with experience, man, and that's what there's no solution for that one. Otherwise, you're getting in and doing it.
Okay. Last question of the day. Now, I know that you wrapped up a big, international event with all your coaches. There's probably, I would imagine, just a heap of amazing information there. What did you learn? Like, what's something that you are taking out of this yourself? Because again, as somebody that's on the stage most of the time, it's easy for us to ask the attendees, but I want to know from you, what did you learn yourself out of this?
What did I learn? Okay. That's good. This is one of those ones that would have been good to ask me before I got on the call, but hey, let's go with it. What would so look, here it is. One of our coaches who got up and did a presentation, she used to work at NASA as an executive, right? So just to say she's a high level gal is an understatement, and not to mention a unbelievable coach and just a sweetheart of a human being. Her presentation got rave reviews, and I would say that a lot of what she did is probably similar to what you just asked me a minute ago, but she brought moxie to the stage. She walked with moxie, and this is what her presentation oozed, is that you've got to be like, she got up there with like what we call a sizzle reel, right? Where, it's like NASA and it's this and it's her walking on stage and, people giving her standing ovation and that sort of stuff. So psychology, it's always 80% psychology, 20% mechanics, right? If not 95-5. So I would say that that's the number one, like all this tactical, the accounts receivable, like you said, like, how do I get them to give me my credit card statements, right? It's just, what was my answer? Just a level of expectation and a moxie that I walk into the room or get onto the phone with, right? So I would say that it's just, our events are no different. You can imagine the level that we train our coaches at and whatnot. They're incredibly well-versed and incredibly, well prepared to walk into any business and just, change the structure and their reality very, very quickly. There's that. And then secondly, which I think is similar, but for me personally, I'm on a journey where I've always been a little bit of a sales and marketing. I'm a sales and marketing guy through and through. When I was a business coach, I didn't introduce myself as a business coach. You'd say, hey, what do you do? I'd say I'm an expert in the area of strategic sales and marketing. Like, I don't know why. I thought that sounded cool. And that's what I said. I was an expert in the area of strategic sales and marketing. If I sent you an invite to come to one of my live events, again, underneath my picture, that's how it impressed me. So I'm a sales and marketing guy, but the journey that I'm on right now is understanding financials at the highest of levels, right? So and again, what I was told during the I did a presentation, right? I started the thing off for 3 hours, boom, boom, boom. A part of that, percentage of that, is me talking about financials and think accounts receivable. And if you've got a client who is profitable but has no cash, there's 5 areas to look at, right? So I take the 3 most important financial documents. Your accountant provides you over 100 financial documents. There's 3 that you actually need. And when I say need, you've got to be able to read these suckers the same way you can't play Monopoly if you don't understand the rules. You can't watch baseball properly without understanding the scoreboard. These financial documents, it's a balance sheet, income statement, and a cash flow statement. Remember, a cash flow statement? Most people they've never seen a cash flow statement, let alone be able to read it. So I just kind of broke those down. And like on a balance sheet, as an example, I've got assets, liabilities, and equity. Right? That's like the accountant speak for what lies on your balance sheet. So I break that stuff down into assets become stuff. Payables or liabilities become stuff you owe, and then your equity is stuff that you own, right? So I'm on a personal journey. I'm get a mentor. If you guys know Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad is the guy that I'm studying under. I'm similar, I guess, to my personality, and I'm not trying to pretend like I'm the know-it-all. That's for damn sure. But when I learn something, I learn it at a very, my goal is to learn at a very, very high level. So that is where I'm at. So in the presentations, I was pulling as much like anybody's taking finance in any way, shape, small business finance, right? I was listening with, 2 years in total silence in terms of, pulling that back into my subconscious mind. So what did I learn? I learned some cool stuff about small business finance, but I also learned that I am on a journey to understand this stuff at the highest of levels. My new profit acceleration software 2.0 again, addresses this to a large degree and will continue to get better and will continue to make refinements and improvements over time as I learn it better. But that's the big one for me, is that it is a journey. I don't know it perfectly yet. I think I do know it better than most just because the level that I've taken it to, like my studying to date. But I'm not even, I'm 10% of where I'm ultimately going to get to, which is all psychology, right? Like if I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not an accountant. How am I going to read this crap, right? Or I've got so many demands and so many emails and so many important things to do. If I don't take time out to train, I'm not going to get to where I want to go, but ultimately it's psychology that will be my chokehold. It's psychology that will stop me from taking it to the level that I want to take it to. So I feel like the event that we just finished, I was allowing myself to go back into journey mode and accept that I don't know this at the level that I need to know it. And there were some unbelievable presentations where I pulled some really good insights in terms of some of the things that I don't know. And it was valuable. And I took massive notes of those sections, and I will continue on my journey, brother. So, and then what does that mean to somebody listening, which I think is important, is that, again, if you've got an actor, okay, that gets stuck, like Jim Carrey is the guy that I like to use. You guys follow my emails. You see me talking about Jim Carrey every once in a while. I love the guy. He's absolutely bloody hilarious. But this is a guy who's trained at the highest level as an actor, right? Like he can be the pet detective, right? And the total, you guys no doubt you've probably seen that movie. You have it. My gosh, you have to. Ace Ventura, right? The Pet Detective. One of the funniest movies the planet's ever seen. And my gosh, the guy who acts in that is just like, I mean, to say that he's just ridiculous and over the top, and the level of comedic acting required to nail that role blows my mind, right? But then he goes and does Man on the Moon, which is like super serious, which is Andy Kaufman, right, the guy from Taxi. So when Jim Carrey, he took on that role, he was in what do you call it? He was in the role for 3 months straight. Like, he went home and he never came out of the role, if you could believe it. Like, he was Andy Kaufman for 3 months, or whatever the number of months it was it took to do the movie, right? Well, an actor who gets stuck in only comedy, or always a teenager, always, the good girl, the bad girl, the super, the action hero, whatever, they haven't taken the time to go and do the training. And if you want to be an actor at the highest level and you want to get paid $10 million and be in the same conversation as, The Rock and Jim Carrey and Nicole Kidman back in the day, et cetera, Tom Cruise, training is where it's at. It's not about the audition. It's about being the best. Conversation over, right? So I don't think most people get that. My journey is that I think I get certain things of business coaching at a pretty high level, but I am not satisfied in any way. I got a massive amount of hunger right now in and around small business finance, because I believe it is the next level for me, but more importantly, it's the next level for my coaching, the coaches that work with us. So I am on a journey, and my psychology dictates that I'm going to blow up the boats and just work it the heck out. The business coach listening, I hope you adopt that over all else, right? Where this is a journey. People, stick your nose into the book, and don't, like, I'm reading a book right now, guys. The things that you read it. My daughter, she's 6 years old. She looks at the book. She's like, "What did you do to the book?" I think I get like she calls them rabbit ears. At school, she gets taught never to do that. Well, my book, every 6 pages got a rabbit ear, and it's not because that's where I'm stopping. It's because that's something I have to come back to, and I've got a marker, and then I've got 3 different colors for 3 different things. Like if it's a psychology, it goes yellow. If it's finance, it's red, etc. Right? And then there's blue. So that's just what I'm doing. So, and hey, that's my journey. It is not yours, guys. This is your journey. You guys need to adopt it, but I'd encourage you to just think training at the highest level. If you were the best business coach in your entire city, in your entire state, believe me, you are not going to be short of a business coaching client. Problem, the entire space is riddled with lead gen, getting clients. But yeah, that's necessary. But if you know how to change a restaurant owner's life, believe me, when you go speak to one, he's probably going to give you a shot. But the reality is you might not have done enough training to be able to, earn the respect and the love and the trust of that restaurant owner. And that's the reason why you don't have the guts and confidence to pick up the phone, go knock on the door, go sit down with the guy. So a little bit of a rabbit hole there, Road Dog. But yeah, that's the thing that I learned more than anything, is that it's a journey for me, just like everybody else. And I am totally ensconced right now in small business finance. And whatever it is that you guys need to be learning, I think you should do the same at the highest level, Jim Carrey style. So there we go, bud. There's my answer.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, good thing we kept this nice and short. Exactly.
That's what we do.
Exactly. Well, let's keep this one nice and short. Here we are. Top of the hour. Any parting words in like 60 seconds or less? And we don't need any more rabbit holes. People need to pitter patter here and get out of it.
No, that's cool. No, just, guys, I think just take this, if I say you've got a client who is profitable and they have no cash, and the 5 things that I just outlined were new to you, make sure that, get your nose stuck, first of all, write that down. I encourage you to write it down, take notes on it, go research this stuff. But afterwards, if you're still confused, it's okay, right? Like, this is a journey and you will get better. And, when you take on coaching clients, don't be shy. They don't expect you to be perfect. Believe me. That's just, if anything, when you show up and you present yourself as perfect, this is a red flag on steroids. Right? That's why any professional speaker will always get on stage and tear themselves down a little bit, because they're trying to come back to the level of the audience, because the goal of the speaker is to make it so that you think, look, if this dum-dum could pull this off, surely I could too, right? So this is a journey, guys, and stick your nose in the books and the programs, and don't read the damn cover of the book or the cover of the program and not go learn the lessons of the program. Absolutely. That one, take to the bank. That's it. It's the seductive but delusional titles of this stuff. A little bit crazy. So that's what I would say is my parting words, man.
Awesome. Cool, man. All right. Well, thank you again, my friend, for another great episode. And I guess we will catch up with everybody on the next episode of the podcast. And until then, everybody, make it a fantastic week.
You beauty. And thanks, guys. And if you can, give us a rating and a review on iTunes. We would certainly appreciate that. If this provided you some value, you like what you heard, please send it off to somebody who you think would make a fantastic coach, or somebody who is an existing business coach and needs to level up. So thanks so much for being here, guys. We'll see you on the next episode of Business Coaching Secrets.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.